Good morning and a very warm welcome to everybody in the room. I'm Karen Donfried. I'm the president of the German Marshall Fund of the United States. And I normally am based in Washington, but I'm here today because GMF has the great honor of hosting Jens Stoltenberg, NATO's new Secretary General, for his first policy address. As we were walking in, Secretary General Stoltenberg said, "Can you imagine when they had balls and dances in this room?" But I think for all of us who work on foreign and security policy, there could be nothing more exciting than having a conversation about NATO with the new Secretary General. We are live streaming this event, so let me also say hello to all of those who are watching on screens. We welcome you as well. Our Twitter details are #NatoGMF or @GMFUS or @NATO. So Twitter away. GMF works extensively on NATO issues, and much of that work is out of our office here in Brussels. So I also do want to introduce my wonderful colleagues, the Executive Director of the Brussels office and our Senior Director for Foreign and Security Policy, Dr. Ian Lesser, and our colleague Bruno Letta, who is in the back of the room and did yeoman's work in pulling this event together. Much of the work that we do on NATO, we have the pleasure of working closely with NATO. NATO is a partner of ours for this event today, and I want to thank all of those colleagues in the room for the excellent cooperation on this and on other things. Secretary General Stoltenberg will speak today about the theme of NATO as a unique alliance with a clear course. Following his address, he and I will have the chance to engage in a brief conversation, and then we'll open it up, and he's happily agreed to take questions from all of you. I have to say that hosting the new Secretary General is a personal pleasure for me because I had the good fortune to get to know him in my previous position at the White House. And I can certainly attest that the alliance could not be more fortunate than to have a proven leader with his demonstrated qualities of pragmatism and effectiveness. His ability to build consensus has already been demonstrated in the NATO context by the strong and unified support for his candidacy among the 28 member states. He has served his home country of Norway with extraordinary distinction through a career of public service, including having served twice as Norway's Prime Minister, most recently from 2005 until last fall. One of his many accomplishments during his tenure as Prime Minister was managing with skill relations with Norway's neighbor, Russia. That background will serve the alliance extremely well as NATO faces challenges from the east due to Russia's illegal annexation of Crimea and all that has followed since. NATO also faces serious threats to its south, with Islamic State and increasing violence and instability across North Africa and the Middle East. It is thus not surprising that Secretary General Stoltenberg's first two trips in his new role have been to Poland and to Turkey. From the day Jens Stoltenberg assumed his responsibilities at NATO headquarters, he has articulated three clear priorities. He stated them at his first press conference, and he's tweeted them. Keep NATO strong, help keep our neighborhood stable by working with partners, and keep the bond between Europe and North America rock solid. Those are certainly missions that GMF very much shares. His clarity of vision will serve the alliance well as it works to implement fully the important decisions taken at the recent Wales Summit, including the Readiness Action Plan, and heads toward the next summit already scheduled for Warsaw in 2016. So, dear Jens, congratulations. Those of us outside government stand ready to support the important work you are doing on the path from Wales to Warsaw. We need you, and we thank you for your willingness to serve in this important role at this important time. So thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for that warm welcome. And Karen, thank you for the very kind words. And thank you so much for coming all the way to Brussels to host me in person here at this event. And you, Karen, you have just assumed a new position and started a new job just as I. And I'm wishing you all the best in your new position, and I'm looking really forward to work with you and to meet you on many different occasions in the future. And I'm also really glad that my first public speech as Secretary General of NATO is hosted by the German Marshall Fund of the United States, another truly transatlantic organization just as NATO. And I know that I am coming to this job at a very critical time, when we see national borders and international rules challenged by force and turmoil in our neighborhood. To the east, Russia's actions in Ukraine are in breach of international law. They have severely damaged trust. And they pose a major challenge to the Euro-Atlantic security. To the south, borders are disappearing. States are fragile. ISIL and other extremist groups across North Africa and the Middle East are spreading violence and instability. And they risk exporting terrorism to our streets. These threats come on the top of others: missile proliferation, energy disruption, and cyber attacks. Not very long ago, we used to refer to these threats as emerging, but they have well and truly already emerged. And they are now part and parcel of our security environment. We can and we must rise to the challenge. I grew up in a world that felt at the time as dangerous as the world we live in today. As a child in Norway during the Cold War, I didn't know much about Article 5 or the Washington Treaty, but I did know that NATO was there to protect us. I felt safe as a child because of NATO. Later, as a young conscript in the Norwegian army, we were trained to hold out in the secure knowledge that our allies would quickly come to our rescue. We knew that Norway could not make it alone, but we also knew that we were not alone. Through NATO, we enjoyed a level of protection that only a transatlantic alliance of democracies can provide. So today, I see it as my duty to ensure that current and future generations feel as safe and secure as I did back then as a child in Norway during the Cold War. And security is the foundation for our freedom and for our open societies, for our prosperity, and in addition for our ability to address all the great challenges of our time, such as poverty and climate change. If we lose our security, we lose so much more. The nature and the challenges to our security may change, but the answer remains the same: working together as a strong alliance. This is really a winning combination. Over the past 65 years, it has helped us to weather many storms. It will get us through these current turbulent times and those we will face in the future. Our NATO summit in Wales last month set a clear course. That makes my job both easy and hard. Easy because we know what to do, and hard because we still have much to do and time is short. At the Wales summit, we took key decisions, and I am determined to translate those decisions into lasting results ahead of our next summit in Warsaw 2016. And I have, as Karen just told you, she reads my tweets, set out 3 priorities, and also many other documents, of course. But if you follow my tweets, you have at least the main messages. I have set out 3 priorities. First, we must keep NATO strong. Strong as a political alliance, as strong as a military alliance. This starts with solidarity and resolve. We are an alliance of democracies. We may not always agree at first, but by debating, consulting, and working together, we arrive at firm decisions. And together, we act on those decisions. This is the strength of our alliance. To stay strong, we must preserve and strengthen collective defense. The pledge to defend each other, enshrined in Article 5 of our founding treaty, remains the bedrock of NATO. It is the basis of everything we do. This is why implementation of the Readiness Action Plan we agreed at Wales is key. This is the biggest reinforcement of our collective defense since the end of the Cold War. We are making our forces more agile and able to deploy quickly whenever threats emerge from any direction. We are also maintaining a continuous NATO presence in the eastern part of our alliance on a rotational basis. To reassure our allies and to deter anyone who might wish to challenge us, we are implementing the Readiness Action Plan. And in the recent months, the numbers of NATO jets in the skies of the eastern allies has increased 5 times. We have deployed more ships in the Baltic and the Black Sea, and this year we are conducting over 200 NATO and national exercises in Europe. A new exercise kicks off every 2 days. These assurance measures are just the start. We are also setting up a rapid reaction spearhead force. And I expect defense ministers to approve the size of the force when they meet in February. We are also putting in place elements of a robust command and control structure on the territory of our eastern allies, and pre-positioning of equipment and supplies, so we can reinforce rapidly if we need to. During my first weeks in office, I have visited both Poland and Turkey. In different ways, these allies exemplify the challenges we face both on the east and on the south. In Poland, I visited the Łask Air Base, and I met with pilots and air crews from across the alliance. From the United States and Canada to Poland and Portugal, working together as one. In Turkey, I saw the Patriot batteries at Gaziantep, and I met troops from the United States, Germany, and other allies, helping to strengthen Turkey's defense against missile attacks. This is what collective defense is all about. 28 for 28. And this is why we must implement the Readiness Action Plan on time and in full. Of course, there will be challenges. But NATO is used to meet challenges. And this is the plan we need to deal with threats wherever they may come, whether they are conventional or unconventional, or hybrid threats, as we have seen in Ukraine. And this leads me to my second priority, to work with our partners to bring stability to our neighborhood. Partnerships are one of NATO's greatest success stories. Enlargement is another. Our partners have worked with us to increase the space of democracy and freedom in Europe. 12 of them have actually become allies. And all partners have made important contributions to our operations. They have helped to enhance international security and to defend the values on which our alliance is based. But today, Russia is trying to roll back the progress we have made in this collective effort. And some of our partners are facing great pressure. We will continue to support Ukraine and other partners in our eastern neighborhood. And we will continue to uphold the principle that each country has the right to choose its own path. This is fundamental, and we all subscribe to it, including Russia. I congratulate the people of Ukraine for exercising their right to vote in the parliamentary elections on Sunday. Despite difficult conditions, these elections were in line with international standards. And the large majority of the people of Ukraine have clearly and democratically spoken in favor of an ambitious reform agenda and a European path. At the same time, I strongly regret, however, that many Ukrainians were unable to exercise their democratic right to vote. In Crimea, which Russia has illegally and illegitimately annexed, and in parts of eastern Ukraine, where violence and intimidation by Russian-backed separatists continues. NATO fully supports Ukraine's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity within its international recognized borders. We call on Russia to end its destabilizing actions in Ukraine and pull back its forces. I am the first Secretary General of NATO from a country that has a common border with Russia. And I remember visiting that border when it was completely closed, back in the days of the Soviet Union. When looking across was like staring into something dark and scary. Now, there is a visa-free zone in its place. And hundreds of thousands of people cross the border every year, to the benefit of both countries. The freedoms and prosperity that many Russians have enjoyed in recent years have come from open borders like this, and from the integration into the global rules-based order. Russia is not just Norway's neighbor, it is NATO's biggest neighbor. and both NATO and Russia are here to stay. So we simply cannot ignore each other. One way or the other, we will have a relationship. The question is, what kind of relationship? Norway's experience as a founding member of NATO is that a strong defense based on a strong NATO is the foundation for a constructive relationship with Russia. It gave us the confidence to work with Russia on a range of different issues, from military matters to fisheries, energy, and environment. We also signed a treaty to establish the maritime boundary between our nations in the Barents Sea and the Arctic Sea. I believe there is a lesson here for us now, that only a strong NATO can build a truly constructive and cooperative relationship with Russia. In the past, we looked at each other with suspicion, relied on deterrence, and talked to each other mainly to avoid dangerous misunderstandings and escalation. And let's face it, we can see echoes of that now. The other alternative is a relationship based on mutual respect, not suspicion, on the rule of law, not the law of the strongest, on common interests, not illusions. And NATO has invested a lot in building such a relationship with Russia ever since the end of the Cold War. NATO continues to aspire to a cooperative relationship with Russia. But to get there, Russia would need to want it and to take clear steps to make it possible. And it is precisely at times like this, when our relationship with Russia is the most difficult since the Cold War, that we need to have greater transparency and predictability, and to make sure that crises do not spiral out of control. Let me be clear. NATO does not see confrontation with Russia, and nobody wants a new Cold War, 25 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall. But we cannot and we will not compromise on the principles on which our alliance and the security of Europe and North America rest. This is my firm conviction. Turning to the south, we see different threats. Many states are fragile, and extremism is fueling instability. But there is no choice between providing for our security in the east or in the south. We have to do both. Our main responsibility is to defend and protect our allies. NATO has already taken an important step by deploying Patriot batteries to our ally Turkey, and by pushing ahead with our NATO missile defense system. This sends a strong signal of solidarity and a strong signal of deterrence. Crises and conflicts beyond NATO's border can pose a direct threat to our security. So we will engage to prevent and manage crises, to stabilize post-conflict situations, and to support reconstruction. And we must be prepared to use military force when necessary. We will also continue to develop our relationship with international and regional organizations, to revitalize and strengthen our political dialogue with partner countries, and to step up practical support. We stand ready to help Iraq to make their forces and the defense institutions more effective, so that we strengthen local forces that already have boots on the ground and help them find local solutions. For over a decade, NATO allies and partner nations from across the world have stood shoulder to shoulder with Afghanistan. We have sustained the largest coalition in recent history, and we have built up capable Afghan forces of 350,000 soldiers and police. They are ready to assume full security responsibility as we complete our ISAF mission at the end of this year. This unprecedented international effort has contributed to a better future for Afghan men, women, and children. And it has enhanced global security. From January 1st, we will launch a new and different mission to train, advise, and assist Afghan forces. But the security of Afghanistan and the country's future will rest fully in the hands of the Afghans. To keep NATO strong and help keep our neighborhood stable, it is imperative that we keep the bond between Europe and North America rock solid. And this is my third priority. Allies on both sides of the Atlantic must play their full part. North America needs a strong Europe, and Europe needs continued strong engagement by North America. We all need to invest in our alliance, politically and financially, to make sure that NATO has the means to do the difficult jobs that it has to do, and the political will to use those means when necessary. At Wales, we agreed to reverse the trend of declining defense budgets and to aim to rise them over the coming decade as our economies grows. As a former Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, I know how difficult this is. And I actually know all the arguments against increasing public spending, also on defense. But I also know how important it is. And I know that with political will, it can be done. Because the primary role and the primary responsibility of any state is to protect its citizens. I will engage personally with all NATO leaders to help us keep the pledge we made at Wales. I also intend to work closely with the new leadership of the European Union. And I'm really encouraged that they too will seek closer engagement with NATO. Because now we need each other more than ever. Ladies and gentlemen, we face enormous challenges both in our eastern and our southern neighborhoods. People across the alliance are understandably worried about their security. And their security is NATO's responsibility. We must be fully committed to doing collective defense and crisis management both at the same time. We do not have the luxury to choose our challenges. We must face them all. North America and Europe must continue to stand together to defend our common values and to keep future generations secure. Thank you for your attention.